still standing in the middle of the dance floor. Naturally, she and Stacy had dissected every moment of that phenomenal event over the weekend that followed, and Ella was prepared for Monday. She knew what she would say. Stacy had coached her at flirting, because she and Mariah understood Ella was the worst when it came to flirting. But Monday came and went, and there had been nothing from Luca. He hadn't even looked her way. It was like he didn't even see her. Then had come graduation, and they'd all gone their separate ways. Ella and Stacy had aged out of foster care, and she'd hied herself up to Dallas and college, later transferring to San Antonio on a scholarship to a small college. She'd worked a lot in the last 12 years, had struggled to finish her accounting degree. But she'd done it. She'd had a couple of serious boyfriends. There was Jake, who ended things with her when she wouldn't move in with him. Jake never did understand how she needed her own place after being moved from one foster home to the next since the time she was 6. The other was Mateo. About a year ago, Mateo told Ella that he felt like she was using him for sex and nothing more. "You don't really let me see you," he'd said. Ella was a little stunned by that and swore it wasn't true. But later, she'd asked Stacy if it might be true. "Oh, yeah," Stacy had said. "You got a wall up, Elle. I mean, everyone does, really, but yours is like super high, like border wall high." "Okay, all right," Ella had said, not liking the idea of surrounding herself with a border wall. Mateo was still her friend and, in fact, had gotten her the hostessing job at the Magnolia Bar and Grill when she'd moved out to the farm. That had been it on the steady boyfriend front. She didn't have a lot of time for dating between her 2 jobs and trying to strike out on her own with a new bookkeeping and accounting business. And truthfully, no guy had ever made her heart flutter or her palms sweat quite like Prince Luca had. No guy had loomed as large in her thoughts. The legend of Prince Luca had lived on long after graduation, and he was still her ultimate fantasy. She hadn't seen him in 12 years, but she'd seen pictures of him online and had heard about him from time to time, always with a beautiful woman, always blonde, always at some swank location, always gorgeous. A prince. So what were the odds that he would be standing before her now? How impossible was it that he would come riding to her rescue? There was no mistake. Luca Prince was standing before her here and now, and Ella felt like a ridiculous, dopey teenager all over again. A little thrilled, a little scared, a lot baffled, and totally afraid that if she opened her mouth, she might humiliate herself. So she just stared at him, and he stared back at her, which seemed like an odd thing for either of them to be doing on an old county road with nothing but buzzards around. Luca had come riding up on a horse across the open range wearing a white t-shirt, jeans so tight she wondered how he sat on that horse, and chaps. Chaps. He had a few days' worth of beard on his face, a hat stained with sweat around the crown. He looked like he'd come off a movie set. He'd ridden right up to her, did that acrobatic move off the horse, stuck his landing right in front of her and said, "Well, hello there," like he'd been missing her all these years. Here's the other thing about high school crushes. When you see your crush after 12 years, you're supposed to look amazing. He's supposed to realize he was an idiot back then. But Ella was dressed like a dumpster diver. Not totally her fault, because she'd been caught up in a little problem prior to this meeting. Ella was a person who prided herself on having pulled herself up by the bootstraps and making her own way in this world. If she ran across a difficulty, she handled it. No complaints. She needed no one, expected nothing, and was, according to Stacy, self-sufficient to a fault. Still, there were a few things Ella couldn't deal with. Like snakes, thank you to Folsom Elementary and her 2nd grade field trip to the snake farm and the nightmares that had followed. Or liars. She definitely couldn't deal with liars. To paraphrase Mr. Darcy, once her good opinion was lost, it was lost forever. And she definitely couldn't deal with Mama Tio's taco stand on North Alamo Street in San Antonio. That place had almost killed her. Last but not least, she could not deal with cars. Cars. Those stupid, lumbering, rusty, necessary beasts and their long slate of problems. She didn't care how vehicles worked. She didn't care how many horses they took the place of, or how many miles she could get from a tank of gas. All she wanted was to get it.